Leave your comments on the Ask Reddit sub, and I'll read your answers on the next episode of LWIAR 2. If COVID-19 wasn't dominating the news right now, what would be some of the biggest stories be right now? The US government wanting to ban end-to-end encryption. Really would. Banking is completely untenable without proper encryption. It's freaking stupid. What I've heard is that companies that continue to use end-to-end encryption will be stripped of their Section 230 protections. They will then be responsible for any illegal crap found on their platform, which will really freak up every social networking platform because there's gonna be illegal crap on there. Companies that comply and remove their E2E encryption will keep their Section 230 protections but essentially open up their platform to a host of security vulnerabilities. As a cybersecurity enthusiast, I should point out that a ton of its supporters seem very uninformed on the benefits of E2E encryption. It's a stupid idea. Edit. For those wondering why the government is even considering this, it's because the bill supporters claim it will bring child predators to justice. It's a stupid idea that won't work, and I honestly don't see how anyone with the slightest bit of clarity could think otherwise. They want them open to security vulnerabilities so it's easier for the government to secretly take data from them. While that is certainly true, even people as dumb as US senators should be able to grasp the idea that if you make a hole in the wall of a bank to let the police in quicker, then bank robbers can also go in through the hole in the wall. It really is that simple. But you're supposed to put a sign over the hole that says, "Authorized persons only." That way the bad guys can't use it. You laugh, but that disclaimer is on just about every piece of networking equipment I've ever touched. If you are not authorized for use, you must disconnect immediately. Like, I'm sure the threat actors see that and just immediately close their sessions like, "Oh crap, I almost broke the rule." Quote. The US government trying to pass an anti-child porn law that actually just gives them the ability to search through all of our messages. Edit. If you want to learn more about this act, here's a link to an article with some great information. Wait, the name of the bill doesn't actually tell you what it is. Frick those guys. More common than you think. How do you pass really crappy legislation that's basically nothing more than a power grab? Give it a wonderful sounding name like Anti-Child Porn Law or the Patriot Act. Then come out and say, "This bill intends this or intends to achieve that." Don't talk about what the actual bill is or says, only what the intentions are, and make it sound wonderful. Third step is when someone argues against it, you say what you hate children. You don't want to stop child porn. You don't like patriotism. Don't you want to get rid of terrorists and feel safe? Whenever you hear a politician talking about intentions, be very skeptical, and it's probably a good idea to find out what the legislation actually says. Edit. Wow, thank you for the silver and all the responses. This really blew up more than I expected. Even though I haven't responded, I agree with many comments. Thanks. They pulled this off successfully with the Patriot Act against terrorists. So why not do it with pedophiles? Despite immunity being granted to the rich ones? What about teens with each other? That's still technically illegal. And also bans end-to-end encryption. If you know anything about internet security, you know that would be devastating to literally everything that's based online in any way whatsoever. Wait, what? Nobody would be allowed to use end-to-end encryption? Yep, which means that the government, and anyone who's decent at using computers, could get into any person or corporation's secrets if they are able to intercept a message. Normally it's not a problem because of end-to-end encryption. And if the government can, anyone can. We will only let good guys have access. Elderly people who don't understand technology but want access to read all our communication. This is worse than forcing you to hand over a key to your house to the police. But hey, if you aren't breaking any laws. This is worse than forcing you to hand over a key to your house to the police. It's like outlawing locks on doors. We just want the world to be safer, they said, and endlessly better for ages ahead. We just want the world to be safer, that's it. Or maybe we just want to look through your crap. The nearly 2-year-long Ebola outbreak in the DRC has ended. The last patient to be treated has survived. Wow, I was worried about this a couple of months ago, but then the pandemic that must not be named took over my attention and I forgot about it. Incredibly brave people fighting Ebola. Such a scary disease. Yeah, the people that get out there to treat patients are some of the world's biggest heroes. I can't imagine how scary it must be to be living in a place with an Ebola outbreak going on. Thank God it's all over now. That was the last bit of positive news I got before all this started happening. The 2020 presidential election. So, does the pandemic help Republicans or Democrats? Duck. Democrats. Trump is immune to public opinion, so this just gives less time for Biden to dig himself a hole. Seriously, who the frick is going to win? I really thought Trump was gonna win easily. But now with all this stuff, who knows what's gonna happen? Economy turned to crap, plus who knows how many people are gonna be dead in the next couple months. Wonder if the blue collar will turn their back on Trump. Considering the advanced age of every candidate still left in the presidential race, COVID-19 might pick the next president for us. Either pick the candidates or pick the voters. Don't look now, but Joe Biden just got a credible Me Too allegation set against him. Twitter.com. Credible according to who? A Twitter comment, the hallmark of credibility. Never thought I'd be thankful for a pandemic. This comment's going to age real well. Fine vintage. The only politics I want to hear are which toilet paper barons I'm going to sacrifice my rations to get that sweet TP. Oh, Grug, the toilet paper baron of the West, was slain by the forces of Bolby, the toilet paper baron of the East, and we are now living within his domain. Don't care as long as my water-flavored ration tax isn't raised. The one thing that a toilet paper baron fears, more than diarrhea, more even than rational decisions by shoppers as autonomous agents, is fire. The former king of Spain and his Twitter accounts. And the fact that through those accounts he received €100 million from Saudi Arabia, and that he's being sued in the UK for threatening his ex-lover, all the while Spanish courts refused to open an investigation. Don't you mean, Spanish courts refused to open an inquisition? The one time a Spanish inquisition was expected, and they didn't come through. Wow, that is crazy. Seems like it's the perfect time to get away with whatever you want. Friend of mine works in accounting, and he said his company is planning on seeing a massive spike in fraud with all the bankruptcies expected to occur. People trying to sneak under the radar, so to speak. Not sure it's trying to sneak under the radar versus the jig being up. Like if I embezzled $1 million and things are going well with a company, I can cover it up. The accounts have $1 million less than what management thinks, but the business keeps operating. Suddenly a crisis hits. The company needs to spend that million, and there's no way I can conceal that it isn't there. Boom. Fraud detected. This is what happened to a previous boss of mine. He wasn't letting us write off uncollectible invoices, usually duplicate invoices, so it looked like a lot of money was owed to us. Then a downturn hit and the board wanted to borrow against the large accounts receivable balance, but couldn't because the bank did an audit which showed those invoices are all uncollectible. I had to quit the job because he kept trying to get me, the accountant, to say those invoices were collectible, but I simply wouldn't because I knew they weren't. If I'd have known why he wanted me to lie, I would have gone above him, but I thought he was just an idiot. If I'd have known, I would have. I honestly vote we just make I'd have a valid written contraction. I'm going to commit to using it when writing informally. Let's do this. I would hope the locusts plaguing East Africa, the Middle East, and the Indian subcontinent. It's describing some swarms as being the size of New York, and they are eating their harvest, threatening widespread famine. I think without coronavirus we would mobilize to try to control this population the way we did for Zika-carrying mosquitoes in the Americas. Edit. This NPR article describes how in 2018 an unfortunate series of cyclones from the Indian Ocean hit an extremely remote area of the Arabian Peninsula known as the Empty Quarter. This produced extraordinary rain and gave them what they needed to breed. Because a second cyclone hit occurred during their breeding cycle, instead of drying out and having most of their population die out in the desert, the population exploded. In favorable conditions they can multiply by 400x their population every 6 months. Then they mass migrated. Also for clarity, a swarm was identified as 3 times the size of NYC. I thought you were joking. This is unreal. What's next, frogs? Lice. I swear I remember hearing about some group readying up like 200k ducks to go fight the locusts. 'cause one duck can eat like 150 locusts a day or something. I'll have to find a source. Edit. No idea how accurate this is, but it's from March 2nd. www.google.com. Just one horseman at a time, please. That's not how the apocalypse works. As someone interested in spirituality and ancient philosophies, I just want to offer a different take on this whole thing. The modern take on the apocalypse is everything goes to crap, which is not what the original definition meant. The word apocalypse literally means unveiling. And I think that even though we are seeing a quick short-term decline, after these trials are over, we could very well see humanity rebound from the suffering and leave this age of confusion, hypocrisy, lies, anger, and authoritarianism, and enter an age of truth, love, light, compassion, and understanding. After the Black Plague, Europe saw the death of feudalism and the birth of a free peasantry, and eventually the Renaissance. Very good things can happen after very hard and painful things have happened. This has shown to be the case countless times in history, and this will not be anywhere near that bad as far as disease outbreaks go. If it's any consolation, I'm saying this as a person with a degree in biology. I'm not trying to spout superstition, but to instead spread an outlook that I feel is extremely valuable in today's day and age. Don't forget the major earthquakes. They're all in bomb shelters cut off from the world. One of the main routes into downtown Seattle, the West Seattle Bridge, was closed yesterday because cracks in support beams made it structurally unsound. It will take several months to fix and will not reopen until it's done. This would normally destroy the entire Seattle commute, but it happened right now, so it's barely even a blip on the local news. Real talk, they likely knew about this for a long time, and were waiting to find a time to close it. My new favorite conspiracy theory is that COVID-19 was created by the Municipal Transportation Authority in Seattle. Don't be ridiculous. The government actually created COVID-19 to keep people inside while they change the batteries on all the birds and work on fixing the Wyoming facade. Wyoming isn't real. I mean, I've never been to Wyoming. None of us have. You can't go anywhere that doesn't exist. Probably the oil price war actually. Saudi Arabia is trying to force the Russians into cutting production since they won't play ball with OPEC+, and US shale might pay the price as we need high cost for this entire industry to function. I work in the oil industry. This is huge right now. It's honestly just about the same as the coronavirus for us. Hours getting cuts, people losing their jobs, etc. All due to oil price and not coronavirus. US shale is paying the price. Even without the virus, it would kill our economy. Yes, it did start before coronavirus, but the impact happened at the same time. It probably wouldn't have happened. You're right. The additional cuts stemmed from the declining oil demand due to the virus. Had there been no virus, oil demand would most likely have adhered to projections, and cuts would have remained stagnant. Something Russia probably would have agreed to. Edit. In response to the people saying the price war started before COVID-19 really took off. That's technically incorrect. China was already heavily impacted, and the cuts were in response to the reduced demand from that country specifically. Everything that happened afterwards was icing on the cake. For reference to just how much China alone fuels the oil industry, the last major boom was in large part because of China's Industrial Revolution, as depicted on this graph. www.stlouisfair.org. Without China's massive industry bustling per the norm and growing at anticipated rates, things can start to crumble quickly. That Putin changed his country's constitution so he can be president until 2036. I think we've all known for a while that dude's going to leave power in a casket, and not at moment. Sooner. I mean, he could go the North Korea route, having him as supreme leader forever and the person running the country just be like the prime minister. For some reason Russia likes maintaining the illusion that they're still a democracy. Probably because certain other world leaders still continue to fall for it. To be honest, I'm not so much afraid of Putin being in power longer. I'm more afraid of when he finally kicks the bucket and leaves a power vacuum behind. I'm not a fan of the man myself, but he's better than a warmonger harassing and creating the Cold War. Part 2. Like how Lenin was significantly better than Stalin, but without Lenin there'd be no Stalin. And Lenin was better than McCartney. ISIS bombs Sikh place of worship in Afghanistan. Edit. Thank you for the awards. Edit 2, for everyone mentioning my previous edit. I am Sikh myself, so it touches my heart that so many people care about this. I'm not trying to be insensitive. Afghan officials say 25 were killed and 8 more are wounded in an attack on the Sikh temple in the nation's capital. It appears multiple gunmen stormed the temple complex while there were approximately 150 people inside. A Sikh who took cover says the militants went room to room, shooting and throwing hand grenades. The Islamic State organization has claimed responsibility. Fricking buttholes are at it again. Or man, bombing the Sikhs. I know it's ISIS, but come on guys. Most Sikhs are literally the nicest people. They have being kind built into the religion and have rocking beards and turbans. Edit. Okay, so not all Sikhs are nice. That's a given. Stop being so angry please. My old boss was a secret alcoholic, sadly also a Sikh. He used to hide tiny whiskey bottles from his family under his turban. He was a genuinely sound guy, and a good boss too. So he was a secret alcoholic. That joke was disturbing. Astronomer here. We might have a bright naked eye comet next month in the Northern Hemisphere, our first since 1997. Comet C, 2019 Atlas Y4 is brightening really quickly. And by May might be one of the brightest things in the night sky. I mean, comets are notoriously tricky to predict in brightness, as it might just break apart as it gets closer to the sun. But it's really exciting to think about. Albeit no one has heard about it because of the pandemic. Though granted, doesn't a pandemic need a bright comet? Edit. You might be able to get it in binoculars right now. Or at least have fun trying. Here is a star chart for it. And yes, the last bright Northern Hemisphere great comet was Hale-Bopp, which was up for about a year to the naked eye, if you were a Southern Hemisphere resident in 2006. However, you probably remember Comet McNaught. Edit 2, because many are asking. That bright star in the evening sky is actually Venus. It's around its peak brightness and height right now, and you should go take a look if your social distancing allows it. Might as well take a break from Netflix and look at a whole nother planet. Edit 3, no, there is no chance of a comet hitting us or affecting life on Earth beyond potentially getting bright. You know what? I'm really excited for this. Thank you for that information. CRISPR is both a blessing and horribly terrifying. Edit. As per usual, Excerpt 1A comes in handy to give levity to a heavy subject while giving great information. If you'd like to know the skinny on genetic alteration, some of the science and ethics behind it, please give it a watch. Alex Salmon. Whoa, that's awesome. Much easier for him to tell which direction is upstream now. If the bill only ends encryption in the USA, how does it work when Americans interact with encrypted sites registered to other parts of their world? Because they can't technically ban encryption. They could probably force App Store owners, Google, Apple, to not allow apps that use it. But they cannot ban the technology. This is the first positive news I have read in this thread. Thanks for watching LWIAR 2. The best of all time r/AskReddit submissions and comments. If you like this video, check out the original LWIAR channel. And don't forget to like and subscribe.